Okay, so today I want to talk about the inner child. For some reason, since I woke up this morning, this idea of the inner child has been rolling around inside my head and bringing up all these different things for me. So actually, when I first started my sort of self-help journey was because while I was in acting school, I checked a book out from my acting school's very tiny library that was about the inner child, and I was applying that to acting work that I was doing, and it made me a much better actor. And it also brought up a lot of stuff for me because I hadn't really examined my childhood at that point because I had been too busy living it. And that set me down the path of self-examination and quote-unquote self-help and spirituality and all that good stuff. And I've encountered a lot of different people who talk about the inner child in different ways, and I find it can be a very helpful concept. But one of the things I wanted to point out with this video is we have such interesting projections of children. Most of us have a sense that children have basically no idea how to take care of themselves and that they need to be told how to behave and how to act and what to do and what is right and what is wrong. And most of our parents, instilled in us the values that they thought would help us live healthy, effective lives. But if we look at most of our parents' lives, they're not exactly lives that we would want. And a lot of the inner child work sometimes talks about reparenting or parenting your inner child yourself. And it's like we also have a whole host of associations with parents and parenting. It is not exactly the most glamorous gig anybody ever heard of. So when I started to look at it, I thought there's probably some resistance to thinking of yourself as a child or thinking that you need to be the parent to a child inside of you. And there are probably some associations with being a child that are positive and some associations with being a child that are negative. And what that started to unfold for me is really life-changing. I know you probably, if inner child work is not your thing, you're probably watching this thinking, what is this even for? But this, more than anything, could really change your life dramatically today. It could really expand your awareness. Well, this is the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot today is you have infinite consciousness, you have infinite awareness. But how much of it are you using at any one given time? How much of it are you being at any one given time? So what I started to realize was because of the childhood experience, a lot of us do not use our consciousness, our awareness. We are not being our consciousness, our awareness, nearly as much as we could. And people also talk about the ego a lot in self-help, and they talk about it in pretty much the same way they talk about the inner child, that it is a definite part of you, and that somehow it's tripping you up from manifesting or creating or experiencing what you want because your ego is afraid, because it's not safe for you to experience what you want to experience, or whatever. But what I think is interesting about that is children don't really have much of an ego. They develop it over time, but they also don't necessarily have much of a concept of safety. It's very common that children will just walk off, they'll crawl off the couch and hit their head on the floor, or, children don't. We treat children the way we do because they're not exactly famous for their ability to keep themselves safe. And the child has to learn what is not safe and what is safe. And a lot of us have a very fractured understanding and relationship to quote unquote what is safe. And spiritually speaking, not physically speaking, can't stress that enough, spiritually speaking, we are often pulled away from the infinite consciousness, from the infinite awareness, because of our ideas of physical safety and ways we use those ideas of physical safety to lock ourselves up. So, when I say inner child, what is your experience of that? What do you think? What do you feel? What associations come up for you? And if you are a person who has ever been told that your inner child or your ego are holding you back in any way from what you want to create, what you want to experience, it is time for you to expand the base of consciousness that you use and that you be moment to moment. So, I was thinking about what it is to be a child in this way. And I was thinking about what it is to be a parent in this way as well. It's like, imagine if one day a recording device showed up on your doorstep and it recorded everything it could see, everything it could hear, and probably also on some level everything you think and feel. And after a couple of years, it started to mirror that. It started to copy that. It started to download all that information from you, and it started to reflect that information, and it started to act in accordance with that information. And then imagine that it starts talking and asking you questions, and you start telling it things. And you're not necessarily awake when you're telling it things. You're not necessarily present when you're telling it things. You may not have ever been spiritually awake in your entire life. And this thing is looking at you more or less like you're God and asking you how the world works, as if it needs to ask you. And even if it's not asking you, maybe you feel compelled to tell it your understanding of how the world works, because that's going to keep it safe. It's incredibly vital that you keep this child, that you keep this recording mechanism, this mind, safe. So you warn it about a lot of things, including its own behavior. And the warnings you give it are not necessarily correct. They're based on your own experience and your own patterning and your own recording of what the people who had no idea what was going on told you. And so most of us, our childhood is recording all these different experiences and all these different moments and reacting to what we're recording. But we don't really know, we're not really told that we can choose, that we can sculpt, that we can create. Maybe if we're very lucky, we have parents or school teachers or somebody in our lives who encourages us to know that we can be in the driver's seat. But for the most part, I have to imagine, based on my own experience and based on the number of people I've met who seem very comfortable creating their lives, which I'll be honest is zero. If you're uncomfortable creating your life, you're in good company. Because I have never, I can honestly say, met a person who's 100% comfortable and in charge and driving where they want to go all the time. I've met people who do it a lot And I've met people who can advertise that they do it a lot. But I don't think I've ever met anybody in my whole life who is truly 100% creating their life without anybody else's stuff rolling around in their head. Or not even anybody else's stuff, but I've yet to meet a person who is 100% creating their life the way they would say they want to. I've met a lot of people who are on the way. I'm on the way. I'm nowhere near where I desire to be. But that's part of the journey, that's part of the experience, and that's beautiful. But what can move you forward, or what can allow you to rest in the creative position right now today? What can allow you to realize your creative position in life today quicker than anything is to recognize you had this whole phase of your life where you're recording experiences, where you're recording perspectives, where you're recording beliefs, ideas, and you are reacting to everything that you're recording. And then after a certain age, even though nobody gave you clear instruction on creation, even though they often gave you very conflicting information on creation, and none of it really had anything to do with you and what you want. It's just, here's my screwed up impression of the world, and here's my screwed up impression of how to survive in it. It's got nothing to do with you, really. They can't even see you. They can't recognize you. They're so caught up in their own nightmare or their own illusion. They can't possibly connect with you and what you can really create. Now, I'm being hyperbolic there. Some of you out there, I'm sure, have or had spiritually aware parents who were a little bit more able to give you some grace as the creator of your experience. But based on the population, based on the state of the world, I feel relatively comfortable saying most people did not have two cheerleaders telling them you create your experience and you can create it to be whatever you want to be, and you're so powerful you're never even going to know how powerful you are, and I believe in you to do whatever you want to do, and that's going to work out better than anything I could imagine. If you had parents like that, great. Ask them to send me some money. Anyway, you see that the first stage of your life is recording all this information, recording all this experience. And it's interpreting it. And it's trying to figure out how to react in every given moment. And you will notice now that a lot of your patterned reactions to certain things are in one way or another informed by when you were a child. Psychology will tell you this. Self-help will tell you this. But you have to start to look at it in a different way. You got to open that up even more, right? Don't just stop at somebody telling you, well, your childhood probably screwed you up and that's why you are the way you are, and here's how we're going to cope with your childhood. No. I'm going to go way beyond that. You have these experiences, you interpret them, you start patterning how you react to these experiences. At a certain point, you shift into the next phase of your life, which is where you're supposed to be in charge. You're supposed to create. And you don't feel equipped to do that because your childhood experiences did not necessarily equip you to do that. I mean, you just got to imagine the first 7 years, the first 15 years, the first 20 years. How many times did somebody tell you during the first 20 years of your life, hey, you're incredibly powerful. Our minds can't even comprehend how powerful you are. Anything you want to experience in this life, you can. and that's going to work out for you perfectly. How many times have you heard that in your life? But particularly in the first 20 or 21 or whenever you cut loose from the family structure. How many times did you hear, you know what? You got this. You're incredible. You're great. You have a creative vision that I can't even comprehend. Go do it. I believe in you. Anything I can do to support you, just ask. I'll do it. No questions asked. How often was that your experience? Versus, this is what you're supposed to do. Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? Why don't you know what you're supposed to do? Because I've told you what you're supposed to do day in and day out. And you still don't know? You're still screwing up? And we wonder why we don't trust ourselves. We wonder why we're not creating the experience we want to create when our formative years, quote unquote, were spent with people reinforcing that we have no idea how to create, that we need to be told how to create, and that if we're not incredibly careful in the life creation process, we're going to die. We're going to screw it up. We're going to hurt ourselves and other people. And you can see where that leads. You can look around you, you can see how happy the average person is, and you can see where that leads. And I'm not about to sit here and say I know a better way to raise children, because I don't. And I don't want to, right? I'm here to do some things, that ain't one of them. So we got to look at that whole block of experience, that whole phase of our life. And we can lament it and go, that was really not ideal. Or we can appreciate it and we can say, you know what? That was all crazy. It's insane that I even made it to where I am now based on what being born and being raised is on planet Earth. It's amazing that anybody is here. As screwed up as we think we are, as screwed up as we think the human race is, it is amazing that we're just generation after generation after generation of 0.0001% of the population being awake, and we're somehow all here. As much as it seems like we're hurtling towards destruction, we haven't yet, which is a miracle. Because you look at how confused humanity has been over the course of human history, and you look at how few luminaries, visionaries we've really had, and it's like, wow, it's amazing that we made it. So you got to appreciate it, because lamenting it, resenting it, I'm trying to just get through it all. I'm trying to combine the words. Lamenting it, resenting it, all that stuff is not going to help us, and we know that. So there's no reason to look back at your childhood and lament it, but you become aware right now. Whoa. I don't even consciously recollect all the stuff that I was recording, that I was holding on to, that I was using to pattern my experience. But my day-to-day experience, my day-to-day reactivities, my day-to-day patterns indicate to me the stuff that was really formative to me, the stuff that I thought it was really important to dwell on, the stuff that I thought it was really important to react to. And if you've got any kind of issue in your life, especially if it is repetitive, you know what your formative years created as a response mechanism in you, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the psychology and a lot of the self-help and a lot of the personal development kind of stops there. It goes, well, here's your childhood patterning, and you need to work with that, and you need to work with that for a long time, and you need to cope with that, and whatever, right? I don't even need to speak on all that. But it's like, I'm sure you've tried a lot of stuff, and it's felt like pieces are missing, and it's felt like things are not working, even though they should, or they work for other people, whatever, right? look at that. Look at how many times as a kid you thought, well, everybody else is getting it, but I'm not getting it. Was everybody else really getting it? Or were they pretending to because that's what you're supposed to do? And is the result that everybody's getting the result that you want? If you look economically, if you look life satisfaction wise, if you look at any metric, most people on the planet ain't got what you really want or what they really want. They've got what they were told they were supposed to want, and they're quickly realizing that what they were supposed to want is getting more and more expensive and less satisfying, and it's being eroded more and more every day, right? That's the illusion that we're all buying into, and that is the illusion that led me to go, I really gotta see this thing through all the way, because this situation is not what I desire. And anybody that wants this to be their experience, more power to you. But for me, I know we ain't got to settle for this. So you're in this phase now where you're supposed to be creating your life, but nobody's ever encouraged you to know that you can do that or to know how. And you are frustrated. And you are reacting using all the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been patterning since you were a child. And you've had just a lifetime of experience of feeling like a kid who is not allowed to choose. Whether you're not smart enough, whether you're not good looking enough, whether you're not well behaved enough, whatever reason you ain't supposed to be able to choose what you want to choose, you're hearing that rolling around in your head every single day. And it is obviously a source of dissatisfaction for you. So this is the moment, right now, where we expand the consciousness, the awareness that we're being. We see that the recording that we were doing, taking everything down, making sure we had it all straight, following it to the letter. We see all of that. The ego, whatever we want to call it, the limiting beliefs, whatever. We see that all of that is based on misunderstanding. Let that really wash over you. Whatever you've been spinning in circles in a rut with, whatever you've been feeling that you don't like feeling, that weighs you down, that makes you feel like your life is just never going to work out because somebody told you if you didn't get this one thing right, your life's never going to work out. All that stuff is a total 100% misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding of you, and it's a misunderstanding of life. Because when you were a child, if you understood what you are, if your parents understood what you are, if your parents understood what they were, if your teachers, your mentors, authority figures, if any of them understood what you are and what they are, they would not have had any interest in saddling you with all this fear, with all this resentment, with all this judgment. They think that that's the best life can be, is a bunch of fear and a bunch of judgment and a bunch of, let me avoid the worst possible outcome, so I'll go straight down the middle. I'll go mediocre. I'll go status quo. And look, if the status quo really resonates with you, I don't want to judge you at all. If you are totally satisfied following the blueprint and never questioning whether your life could be anything else, whether you might be more, whether you might have something unique to offer, if you just want to slot into the status quo till death do us part, I honor you. I bless you. I really do. Because I think every person should be allowed to decide exactly what they want and be unfettered in their journey to experience it. That's what I believe. So if anybody wants to experience something that I don't agree with, that I don't think is right for me, I don't want to judge those people. Because it's a waste. The life that I have is precious. The life that you have is precious. The life that every person on planet Earth has right now is precious, and we don't act like it. So whatever your dream is, whatever you're interested in, whatever you want your experience to be, if you just want your experience to be survival and good enough, I want you to have that. But if you know that you are different, that you are unique, that you are open to something else, I want you to arrive at yourself and not give up on yourself and not be persuaded to think differently, to feel differently, to act differently, to do differently, to be differently than what you are. So, look at these patterned areas of your life, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whatever it is. Look at these areas where you think you've always got a problem. And I bet you will probably be aware that when you were younger, people told you you either did have a problem, or if you didn't get your act together, you were going to have a problem in those particular areas. And I bet you've had a lot of life experiences where you proved to yourself and to them they were right. You got a problem in that area, you don't know what you're doing, and you can't fix it. And you've been banging your head against the wall going, why am I like this? Ever since. Today's the day you expand your consciousness, your awareness. You see, that's all one big misunderstanding. If you got issues with money, you're misunderstanding yourself. You're misunderstanding money. And when I say that, I don't mean you need to go and get a lot better at math, or you need to get a lot better at finance, or whatever. I mean you are misunderstanding the basic elemental fabric of life and the basic elemental fabric of you and how connected those two things are. A lot of us, we're trying to remedy a narrow band consciousness with material. If we think we've got a money issue, a money problem, we're trying to remedy that by getting more money and not by using and being present with a much greater wealth consciousness. I myself, at different times, I've made a lot of money by most people's estimation. And I did not have a wealth consciousness in those moments. Well, I had it, but I wasn't using it, right? You got infinite consciousness, you got infinite awareness. You always have, you always will. When is the last time anybody ever told you that? And how often did they tell you that? And every day of your life, did you have somebody rooting you on going, you got infinite intelligence. You got infinite awareness. You got infinite consciousness. You got it. It's here now. You can use as much of it as you want. You can create whatever you want. When's the last time? And so I had a lot of money, and I got rid of it immediately because it didn't even occur to me to make any other choice but then what I considered to be a big money mistake, right? Because I thought of myself as someone who screws up with money. I thought of myself as someone who wastes money. I thought of myself as someone who doesn't understand money. So even though I got a lot of it, quickly, easily, it did not solve my problems. Because I didn't have any problems in the first place. And I'm sitting there looking at where there isn't a problem going, my God, I got a problem. I got a money problem. My money problem is I'm an idiot when it comes to money. Which, the rate at which I'm able to bring money in, most people would not argue that I'm an idiot with money. They'd be like, I wish I... And that's not me bragging, because there are people who bring in way more money than I've ever even thought about, quickly and easily, right? But then if you see my ability to send money back out, you go, oh, you're an idiot, because you don't keep any of it. You don't save any of it. You don't, in the past, I was really just, I make it and I spend it. I make it and I spend it. And there's never any left over. And there's no amount of money that changes that, because it's not about the money. It's about the consciousness and the awareness. And it's about, I had recorded all these experiences in my life where I thought I was an idiot with money. My parents telling me when I was growing up that I was spoiled, which I was. But why is that a problem? How's that a problem? How's that going to create problems for me in the future? It's not. If I believe it is, it will. It's like, I once worked in a casting office, and this guy came in, and he was just an incredible actor in this goofy New York lottery commercial, and he just crushed the audition. And the guy doing the thing goes, yeah, he was good. Just worried that he's too handsome. And in my head, I'm going, when has that ever been a problem? People will find a way to create a problem where one does not exist. And appreciate it, right? It creates drama. It creates impact. It creates dynamics in life when you create these imaginary problems for yourself. But when it comes to the expansion, when it comes to the use of more and more of your infinite supply of consciousness and awareness, aren't you just about done with the problem-solving phase, with the problem-solving era? Aren't you ready for, okay, my life is not about solving freaking problems until they put me in the ground. My life is about, what do I want to experience next? What do I want to experience next? What do I want to experience next? And you got to look at this quote-unquote inner child. You got to look at this ego and go, that's a fundamental misunderstanding. I was never that. I was so open to receive. I was so open to other people. I so trusted other people that I downloaded a lot of really, really, really bogus information. And don't judge it. Don't judge the people who delivered the information. Don't judge yourself for taking it on. Don't judge yourself for believing it. That's not going to get you anywhere. You don't have to fight with it. You don't have to resist it. You don't have to undo it all today. You just recognize in this moment, for most of my life, I was operating under delusion. And I'm making the choice right now to get clearer and clearer every moment. I'm making the choice right now to use as much of my awareness as much of my consciousness as I possibly can. And probably even had experiences as a child where you were more aware than your parents, where you knew things that your parents did not know. And did anybody believe you? No. Because we have this strange relationship to children where they're the most valuable thing, but we don't believe in them at all. Sometimes we do, when they're behaving well, we're like, wow, that's a great kid. But a lot of parents got too much of their own stuff going on, that if you're 4 years old and you know something, you're aware of something, you're firing on all cylinders in terms of consciousness, that they're going to listen to you and go, you're right. Let's do it. Like I said, you might have gotten a lot luckier than anyone I know, but I don't know anybody who was raised in such a way, and I hope that starts to change. But whether it does or it doesn't, what can change right here, right now, how much of our consciousness, how much of our awareness that is infinite do we allow ourselves to be? And as soon as you say, I'm just going to allow myself to be with that more, everything changes. Right now, you could feel that if you made that choice. You could feel that. And it's so much bigger. That's the thing. All this patterning, all this programming, all of these beliefs, all this ego, all this you got to keep yourself safe. You're so much bigger than all of that. And you know you're so much bigger than all that. That's why it feels so stifling. Anytime you believe anything anybody ever told you about being safe, about keeping yourself safe, about the way you got to operate to survive, that was counter to your nature, that feels stifling, it feels reductive, it feels horrible. Because you know that's so much smaller of a way of being than you are. And you know that it doesn't work. You know that it's not necessary, but because you love these people, because you trust these people, you go, okay, I guess I am smaller than I thought. We're constantly telling children how small they are. And then we wonder why we have all these adults walking around who feel like they have no idea what they're doing. My generation and younger, most of us don't even want to see each other in person anymore. We just want to be on the computer or be on the social media and live fantasy lives. We don't want to deal with this stuff in reality because it sucks. But it's that's all a misunderstanding. It's all a misperception. If nobody has ever believed in you, if nobody has ever empowered you, if nobody's ever told you that you can handle it, that you got it, that you can do it, that you can be it, that you are it, just because they didn't know. We don't have to hate them. We don't have to be resentful of them. And, when I kept reiterating how trustful you are as a child, don't use that as a reason to become mistrustful of people now, right? You don't need to trust other people less. You need to trust yourself more. Totally, if you can. And so, it's really simple. It's really easy when we're looking at it with full awareness and full consciousness. When we're looking at it as this gigantic, massive compendium of horrible life experiences that we can never rectify, that we can never fix, that we can never repair. When we look at it like, I'm just irrevocably screwed up, and I always will be. The stuff that happened in my life was so bad that I'll never be able to change, that I'll never be able to fix it, You don't need to fix it. You don't need to change. You do not need to be made better in any way. You are already the infinite. You are already the all. You are already aware. You are already tapped in. You ignore it all the time because you have been told to. And that's not what they meant to tell you. They just didn't know. Because they can't remember the last time they really listened. They were really aware. They were really conscious. They were really present. I hate to use the word present because it has, especially for me, such an association. You know, I am an actor, was an actor, whatever. And I went to acting school. I went to many acting schools, and it was all about presence. And they would make you do these ridiculous exercises to build presence. And it's like, who cares? Let's change this illusion. Let's dissolve what is not real. Let's be who and what we really are. Because it's okay now. In the past, we might have mistakenly believed or been led to believe it was not okay to really be what we really are. But it's okay today. It's better than okay. It's needed. It's vital. It's necessary. It's not an obligation. It's not a responsibility. Why wouldn't you want to be what you really are? You think it's really going to cost you that? This is the thing. So much of childhood is somebody telling you what you are or what they think of what you are based on the way you're behaving when you have no idea what anything is. And you start thinking that's what you are, and that you need to hold back on what you are, and you need to police what you are, and you need to fix what you are, and you need to change what you are. And your life starts to feel like walking around on eggshells. That's a total misunderstanding of what you are. And if you start to express what you really are, the hate and the fear of the world will dissolve. And it won't have any effect on you. I know when I said that, some of you were like, you are insane. I said a lot of crazy stuff, but for some of you, that was the thing that makes you go, you're nuts. And yeah, admittedly, I definitely am. Got all the qualifications. Certifiably nuts. But I don't know if you've noticed, everybody around you is, and they're just pretending not to be. And they're miserable pretending not to be. They're really, really miserable pretending not to be. The few people who are truly, truly, truly happy in this life are just there with themselves, and they will not give it up. They don't need to. There's no reason to. They realize they can be themselves, and they can coexist in the world, and that things can be beautiful. I've met a couple people like that, and I feel incredibly blessed. Could any of those people explain to other people how they ended up that way? No. So good luck to the rest of you. But it's like, it's easy. Doesn't require study, doesn't require practice, doesn't require ritual, doesn't require learning. You came in knowing it. You came in being it. You came in celebrating it all the time. And the people in your life didn't understand that in themselves or in you because they were never encouraged to the same way you were never encouraged to. And we are going to break that cycle. I'm going to do my best every day to recognize that I can create whatever I want. And so can you. And everybody can. And I don't even have to believe it. Because it's the truth. I don't have to believe that the sun is going to come out tomorrow. it is. And if it doesn't, I guess we didn't need it as much as we thought. But just for a moment, let your consciousness, let your awareness be as expansive, as infinite as it really is. You don't have to let it. It already is, whether you let it or not. But let it anyway. Let yourself experience that. Being a being with infinite consciousness, infinite awareness. Where do you think these desires that you have come from? Where do you think that this idea that life could be better comes from? If you did not have infinite awareness, infinite consciousness, you'd be stuck with the garbage you think you've been stuck with. But you're not. You're not stuck with anything, and it's not garbage. It's just a misunderstanding. It's just a misperception. Let that fall away now. Well, as always, thank you so much for joining me. I love doing this, and I hope you get something out of it. If you do, liking, subscribing, commenting, all really helps. And if there's anything you need help with, all you got to do is let me know. You can leave a comment. You can reach out to me privately. However you are comfortable expressing what you'd like help with, I'll be more than happy to help you. A couple of people have been reaching out to me the last couple of days, and I'm really grateful that people let me know that this stuff is having a positive impact in their lives, because for me, that is part of what makes life fun and joyful and interesting, is helping other people. Because at certain parts of my life and my experience, the help was not so easy to find. And that was by design. I chose that. I don't regret that. It's great. But the help, in my opinion, should be easy to get if you feel like you want it. You don't need it. You got this. You got it all on your own. I promise you. But if you want help, I think the help should always be there, and it should be readily available. So, if you need help, you just let me know. If you don't need help, I hope you create things that you haven't even dreamed of yet. I hope you experience more and more and more every day, and I hope you never stop, because that will inspire everybody around you to know they can do it too. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.